Oh, yes, indeed. Everybody, welcome to it. Welcome to Every Cent Conks here on New Era TT Radio. Yeah. We want more money, plenty money. As I say, any money good for we. And this is where we are joined by Garth Thomas on a Monday. It's always a pleasure to have Garth on the inside. Every time he's here, it's not just a normal Monday, it's a great Monday morning. So, Mr. Thomas, a great morning to you.
And a great morning to you, Sir Charles. I love the promotion, man.
Yes.
Never settle for good when great is available.
Yeah.
Great is always available.
Always available.
All right, Sir Charles, well, we're going to cut to the chase very quickly this morning because this morning we're having part 2 of an interview that we had earlier in the year and which we have already repeated because it was of such quality. And, you want to treasure what is past, but you also want to embrace what is present. And this morning we have with us a gentleman by the name, and I you notice I underline that word, gentleman. And he wouldn't even smile.
Be careful how you use that English word, gentleman. Today, India has inflicted on the colonial masters a defeat. And who accounted for it was a fellow called Muhammad Siraj. In the dressing room, he is known as Mayan, M-I-Y-A-N. And the meaning of that is a Muslim gentleman. So when you use that word, gentleman, it provoked me to put it in a larger perspective.
Context. Taken, direct information accepted and will be applied. But let me tell you a little more about this. Well, I don't know the word, but this friend of mine, how about that?
That will do.
This friend of mine, Mr. Nazeer Sultan, because the last time he was on the show, I neglected to give him his proper introduction. So here it is. He is a game changer, a provocateur, known for disrupting the status quo. He specializes in modern day thinking and exploring the role of neuroscience in human performance. As managing director of Delta 55, he has led strategic alignment interventions, pioneered culture change initiatives, and coached business executives in leadership and lifestyle prescriptions. He holds a BSc in Management Studies from UWI and an MBA from Andrews University, Michigan. And he has completed the immersion experience at the University of Rochester program for nutrition and medicine, New York. Those are just some of his accolades and achievements. And we are delighted to have Nazeer back on Nett Radio TT. Welcome to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
All right. So let's cut to the chase, Nazeer. We are heading pell-mell toward the 63rd anniversary of this nation's quote-unquote independence. Now, an anniversary is a very appropriate time for reflection. It is also a very appropriate time for projection. You're looking back to see where you've come from, to analyze your successes and failures. And hopefully from that learned experience, you can make and articulate some agenda, some strategy for moving forward. So I want us in our conversation this morning, Nazeer, to engage that whole concept of our nation moving forward. Tell me, and let me frame it. Let me tell you how I want us to frame it. 3 words: mindset, mindfulness, and self-interest. Okay? Those are the 3 broad headings we're going to try and cover in our conversation this morning. So tell me, what concerns do you have for the progress / development of Trinidad and Tobago?
You're a disruptor, you know. I called you on your Sabbath yesterday just to sketch some notes that we are going to talk about. And I went about as a comply. I tried to comply at this age. You know, I worked for a man who in 1970s invited me to the National Commercial Bank because, interestingly, he was interested in a philosopher, to bring a philosopher to the bank, Philip Rothschild. And, you know, so I'm accustomed with decent ways. And here you are pulling the carpet from below my feet, bringing an agenda that you dreamt about or got some vision about last night. Okay, thank you.
I do it only because I know that you are more than capable of rising to the occasion, and that you have a great appreciation for fresh thought rather than being mired in the past in one way or another.
I must find the African name for gentleman, you know. I think you are displaying it. You are displaying it. I'm glad, truth be told, and you will be surprised this coming from me this morning, I have no major concerns.
Okay.
We are doing well. We are doing well. You have to remember that the dominant emphasis in our history has been a transplanted people. Some chained and brought here. And another large set, the promise of Trinidad, the land of honey, indenture. And when you look at, and let's look most recent, when we look at, we have just changed a government. The peace, the tolerance, and I don't like that word, but the peace, the tolerance, the civility, I would have to say, generally, we have done well. Yes, we have some bad economic times recently, but that bad economic times in the context of the Caribbean, in context of the global stage, is because of the standards we have grown accustomed to. We are good. Look at our debt to GDP. Look at our ability to fund a vacation, not to Miami, but to Tobago. Look at our basket. Look at what we had for lunch yesterday. That is not to say that I do not have concerns. I have concerns, but I'm steeled that we will rise. Even more buoyant that we will rise if faces like yours and mine give way to the youth that I have a great belief in. And I'll tell you where that belief comes from. The belief comes from, and you are prophetic. Correct me. You are talking about mindfulness. You are talking about mindset, and you are talking about self-interest.
Correct is right. Correct is right.
You could not have done some better team as we look at our independence today. Let's start with mindset. Let's acknowledge that the mindset of yours and mine, and I do not know Sir Charles so well, but look at his profile appearing on my screen. It would seem to suggest he has been blessed with a few moons too. Not as much as you and I, but he does carry that image. But I'm very wary about virtual images and fake posts and things. But let me stop there. We are actually reaping in Trinidad at this time the mindset, the manifestations of minds like yours and mine.
Stick a pin stick a pin.
Yeah.
Would you care to give us a definition of that term, mindset?
Oh, the term mindset is used, and I'll make a distinction between how the West uses the term and how the Eastern world use the term, as I see it. Mindset involves consciousness, the brain. Mindset involves the unconscious, our body memory, our tendencies. Mindset includes the uniqueness of our tribal conditioning. Mindset involves Trinity to the bone. Mindset is something that we use loosely to ascribe all those things that are responsible for us behaving, thinking, looking, dressing, interacting as we do today. In a khutbah, and a khutbah is like a sermon, a Muslim sermon that I listened last week, they spoke about our appetites, what we like, what we go towards, what we run away from. And it used two interesting constructs that I used to assume was associated almost exclusively with human biology. You may be able to relate to it too. The two things are inheritance, and your program is about money, and incontinence, bodily functions. Inheritance. We tend to think of inheritance as intergenerational wealth. That is a small piece in the equation. Inheritance has to do with our DNA, our early food, our likings, what pains us, our appetites. That's inheritance. It's like a friend who made, you all walk either around the savannah, and those north of the lighthouse, or what's the other one by Harvard there? I think St. Joe.
Mandela Park.
Mandela Park, let me call it correctly. So he sent Nazeer, it's no longer 10,000 steps, it's 7,000. And I said, I'm going to call his name because you don't know him. I said, Leonard, be careful. Those are good and they are scientific. But I am interested in this age, at this age, in validation dealing with n equal to 1, n equal to Nazeer Sultan. I want to know how many steps I, Nazeer Sultan, not some generic 7,000 steps and those kinds of things. And those are things that at this age, we are dealing with mindset. I'm going to introduce a construct where intuition, a sense of this at 73 is where would land me in a better place. This is my zone.
So all of these things comprise or are involved in the creation of a mindset. All of these are elements. All of these are critical elements of
a mindset. It's messy. What I have done, I haven't given you a good British Oxfordian definition, but it's the messiness. It is our attempt to dissent things that are essentially messy that lands us in half-baked solutions. So let me just make this point, because I want to now kind of go into the domain of what is our national mindset.
I want you to go there.
All right, I saw it in here. I could read you, man. We eat out of the same plate and we have committed the same sins. So let's go there. You see this Trinity to the bone?
Yeah.
Trinity to the bone is a desire. that regardless of whether you're in Charlottesville, you're in Los Ciro, you're in Mayaro, you're in Caroni, it is like we have landed in a space where we are we. This is who we are. But at best, it is a wish, it is a hope, it's an aspiration. Because, truth be told, we have curated highly divisive ways. We have provoked it to the extent, and you just have to look at social media. And I think that is where we believe that God is a Trinity, because we think we wouldn't go off the cliff. But our divisiveness has found itself in our institution, in our leaders, in our pundits, in our pastors. Unconsciously. The choices we make, the scholarships we offer, the jobs we give to, the boards we appoint. A lot of mischief. So we are divisive by design and default. And we have to correct that, but we cannot correct it by mere lamentations. We're supposed to stop doing this, we're supposed to stop doing that, because it is the brain and how these synapses have been generated and curated over the last 10 decades that have landed us here. So we have to use the brain, not lamentations and hope and aspirations. There's a place for that. But we do enough of that on Friday and Saturday and Sunday in church. We have to be more scientific in culturing habits consistent with a healthy mindset that could lead this place to Trinity to the bone. Trinity to the bone also needs to be, I'm rather just add it as a song, but we need to be clear on what that means.
Yeah. So, you see, I was going to ask the question about how environment impacts on mindset creation. And you see, I think we have struck a very important nerve here, because there is the recognition that there is a need for us to change. You know how it is so inadequately described, in my view, of changing our minds. And the changing of the mind, changing the way that we think, it speaks to transformation of a mindset. And that is why I wanted us to talk about mindset this morning, because it is a pervasive influence on behavior. And you could try to correct the behavior at the point of execution. It will always fail because it has a source, and the source is the mindset. So if we acknowledge that there's a need for want of better terms, we acknowledge there's a need for the development of a Trinity to the bone mindset. How do we go about creating that transformation? What are the specific actions that we must initiate and sustain in order for such a mindset to be manifest?
We have to go about it evidential and scientific. It has to be beyond the Ganges meeting the Nile. It has to be beyond that. What does that mean? What does that show up in terms of habits, in terms of priorities, in terms of values? In fact, you are mirroring the work of Bandura's in his social learning theory, where he says, learning occurs observing others. Our foreparents said it better. They say monkey do what monkey see, or monkey see what monkey do.
Monkey see what monkey do. Yeah.
Lovely. Now, the reason I seldom accept these things is because my children say, Daddy, don't talk about me, please. Don't talk about me. When you finish a program, people will meet me in the store and tell me what my father say about me. But you see, the education that I have been fortunate to acquire, I have parked that aside as standard staple. And I use the rhythm and the realities of daily life to guide me, to distill, to give me the wisdom. I have 3 kids. My archetype, my son is the archetype of Laventil. And I'm not saying that, don't watch me, I'm not saying that in no shaming or blaming way. I'm shaming that to your question, what accounts? My biggest daughter is the Dogla of Tunapuna. Again, I'm saying that in terms of who she is, her values, and all of that. And my last daughter, who is now in the University of Aruba teaching, she is the archetype Caroni Indian. And I say these with the stereotype, the archetyping of these people, so that we can get the best and we could see the limitation of each archetype. And I could speak about them, and they come from the same mother belly. So, to answer your question, what accounts for that difference? Because that's massive difference you're talking about, Nazeer. My daughter will want the best cars. My daughter will want to go and listen to Oprah and Obama in New York and get a box lunch for probably about $100 US. And my son will say, I have none of that, man. Let me go and enjoy today. Actually told my current wife that, I'm lucky to have a father like him, He provides for his grandchildren, affording me the opportunity to enjoy my life. And I look at that and say, is that a curse or a blessing? And my last daughter, she would save. She would save. She would invest in a house. She would say, Daddy, are you changing your car? I want that second-hand car. And I ask, what accounts for that? The same father, I'm told, I have no reason, I never did a test. But the same mother, I'm sure, although there are cesareans done at the hospital, so I don't know if there was any exchange taken, but I live with it. They are my children. They call me Daddy. God, your environment, your DNA means a lot, but your environment, your support system, the values. Show me 5 of your friends and I will tell you who you are. Right?
Okay.
So, as a country boy, I came and I played mass with Stephen Leung and then later Minchel for about 28 consecutive years. My first mass costume, I paid $47.50 torn and Celestine on Aripich Avenue. And I got it, those are the days when the march was finished 4 o'clock in the morning. I got it about 4 while we are listening for results. How do you trump? And I come from essentially a country, East Indian Muslim upbringing, that has its virtues and its limitations. How do you trump that? Should you trump that? Well, I am a learner and a rebel by instinct. So I discover. So God is the environment, and there are pieces in our environment, unfortunately, in terms of your mindset, that I think we need to just look at our cricket.
Oh, don't go down in control.
No. I go down the cricket because it was CLR that said
beyond the boundary. Yes.
Beyond the boundary. Look at India inflicting a curtail on the colonial masters who invented this game. And look at the behavior of the British captain when he thought them fellas last thing should, in the gentleman game, give up. They still are holding on to their colonial masters. We are free now. We have a right to assert. You will not silence us. And then in our cricket today, I think constructs as where we came from. Not conveniently assembling Lloyd and Lara and Vivian. That's part of this viral fake thing. No. What is their genius and their essence, and how could we tap into it? I'm going to introduce some concepts that you know quite well. Accountability, consequence, agency, autonomy. Garth, we are strangers. Lloyd Best told us that we are strangers to those constructs. We settle instead for what Naipaul called the mimic man. And that's why we favor so much limbo and picong and double entendre. It is as if we are ashamed to say, this is me, Trinity to the bone, and this is what I like.
Take it or leave it. Yeah.
I don't like
it. Well, you see, you talk about being a learner and a rebel. And I look at the association between those two constructs. A learner and a rebel. Are you suggesting that the one flows from the other?
You're coming to provoke me this morning. I will tell you something, and you must read Krishnamurti, the Indian philosopher. To be a learner, you must be a rebel. You know what is a rebel? A rebel is not like enough taking guns and things and going up to the hill. There may be a time when that is required. And Burroughs and them handling them in the 70s. There might be a time. In a rebel, I am talking for a rebel. Sorry. Okay. Just give me... I just can't take off my phone right now. Anyhow, a rebel is one who, it's a wide thing. Probably Che Guevara on one end, and you start off by questioning but that doesn't look right. A rebel is one who would risk social approval in the interest of the truth that he seeks. So we are all rebels at times. But the courage, because I want to tell you, the world reward systems and the way the brain operates, and this is centuries of curation. We run away from pain. And to be a rebel is pain, you know. Ostracized by the family, by the society. Look, I am seeing this year, Kwame, our boy, Toure. Eric say, yeah, want him here. Ban the man from coming here. Right? So you risk. But a rebel is simply someone, and we have not gone into your second piece, someone with presence. Someone with mindfulness.
Okay.
Mindfulness creates rebel. I mean, there are rebels without cause who will put up a jandy pole and go all over the place standing for the poor man and all that. The rebel is mindfulness expressing itself. The rebel, you cannot help but be a rebel if you are present.
Well, you know, I immediately think about 1970 and of all that led up to 1970 and that all that has sequenced from 1970, both positive and negative, because that is another journey that is worthy of discussion. But I am saying that these how critical are the things that you have just articulated relative to mindfulness, relative to DNA, the environment, to Minshall and David Rudder, and beyond the boundary? How critical are these things in enabling the transformation of the Trini mindset to one that will unconsciously and automatically move us to much greater heights than we have achieved as a nation?
Two things. I'd like to first say loudly that souls are saved, nations are saved, one by one. One by one. So people ask me, so Sultan, why you do this? And why you do this? Why you do that? I said, I do that. I do that in my conversations. This morning I saw a guy picking up mango opposite me. And I have a box of mango to take to friends. And I said, hold on. And he pouring things that I say in Ethiopian. I said,
Yeah.
no, hold on. And by that time, my big dog that will scare anybody, is barking at the gate. I said, I have some mangoes for you. And he felt uncomfortable. And then I packed some mangoes and I carried for him. Souls are saved one by one. That guy, I do not know to what extent, probably existentialism will, you think that he is more concerned with putting food for his children that were in the car while he was doing this than probably engaging in this social mental thing. But I consider that part of my worship. I consider that part of my education. Before I go on, you mentioned 1970, and I'd like to make a plug for my good friend David Brizan, who passed away probably about 2 months ago. And Rex passed away a while ago, but he was heavy into health and things. These guys, I mean, I read those scripts. We have Shah Arong Rafiq with Dan Juma. It's an exciting part of our history. It's an exciting part of our history, as you said, good and bad. I do not know why people think that history must be all good or history is all bad. I mean, I see all the things about the celebrations around moving Columbus statue. I mean, that physical act will take some effort. But the bigger act is, my boy Mali, emancipate yourself. Could we get Columbus out of our head? Could we see, if you go to Portugal, you'll get a recognition of Columbus. Columbus did bad things. Columbus also did good things. I do not know why we want to change history. History is not meant to be changed. History is meant for us to learn.
Learn.
Don't
No
repeat
question.
the errors.
Regardless of who wrote it.
You know, it's normally written by the victors so that they give us their view of
That
things.
is why,
Right?
that is why I said that.
So we will believe that the Gaza thing that happening started in October 11th or something like that. You know, we have convenient narrative. And again, God, that is the mindset. And this AI and viral things will send us to another place. But presence causes you to anchor and look at it like from a balcony. Wait, there are millions of upstream factors that is responsible for this. So they are critical part. They are things that we need to dismantle. And as Lloyd Best warns us decades ago, it is in the conversations that the real action begins.
Great.
I am afraid those conversations have to be more nuanced. They have to be more intentional. They have to be more collaborative.
More promoted.
Huh?
And more promoted.
Yes, and more promoted. But we have lived in an age that we promote what we like and we reward what we like. You just look at what's coming up for national awards.
Yes. Okay.
You know?
So you see now that moves us to my third point for discussion this morning, which is self-interest. All right? Self-interest. So we have mindset, we have mindfulness, and we have self-interest. Do you think that self-interest is necessarily a competing element against the first two? Or in what ways can self-interest be utilized to promote the other two in directions that will move us forward?
If you read well and reflect on the religious text, and I have to some extent the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, I feel compelled to do so. Excuse me. Each morning at 3, you would find me, you might not be seeing this, the Quran. Each morning, you will see me as the first thing, gazing at my grandchildren. Each morning, right on this table that I pray, you would see paying homage to my parents, Afros and Imam Shah Sultan. They are the things, they are my environment. Self-interest. If you do not have, and those holy books attest to it, if you do not love yourself and have intimacy with what love is, you can't build nothing of beauty. You cannot, your mindfulness and your mindset will be deficient. You have to come to terms with what is being human. When you understand your appetites, when you understand your incontinence, you will have mercy and compassion and won't be rushed and impatient in judging others. Get to know yourself. That is the essence of self-interest.
What informs self-interest?
What informs self-interest?
Yes.
Self-interest is presence or mindfulness at the core. Who am I? Who is Garth Thomas? What drives me? What stirs me?
Is there
really in the privacy of my heart?
Yeah.
What I don't like. What I don't like that I should like. What I like that I should not like. That is self-interest. And
make a distinction.
Know thyself.
Make a distinction. I know thyself. Very important statement. But make a distinction between self-interest and selfishness.
Oh, you are talking about self-obsession. When the center of the universe is Garth Thomas. No, that is selfishness. That is self-centeredness. That is self-obsession. That is failing to recognize the other. That is where that great social philosopher spoke about I and it, or I and thou, where you are basically it and I am thou. Just simple like that. When you fail to realize the human spirit and connection between you and I, when you fail to realize that we are created by God with a grand plan, when you fail to realize the community, when you fail to realize higher purpose, and in the cocoon of your little world, you dance. It reminds me of the mouse that found a grain of rice and thought he was a grocer. Such pettiness.
Would you say that those sentiments are expressed in the message that I carry on my chest? I don't know if you can see it. Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Read it for our listeners.
I am 110% priceless. Sit now, God. Sit. I got your message. So are you. Sit, God.
So are you. I couldn't sit until they say, so are you.
God, you are talking about the word, the caution, the fear I have about today is that we are hustling for love. We are doing so many things in the interest of love. In the interest of love. We have to learn where religion may have taken us with that construct and its devilish manifestation. I am not politicizing or anything, but this is my belief.
Okay.
If you do not have belief and values, you are like a thrown stone. You could fall anyway. It doesn't matter. You must be anchored. I don't care. Anchored in love. There can be nothing called love, and I'm going back to your self-interest. There can be nothing called love if there is not justice, fairness, and equity. Love is action. Do I love my country?
You see, that is I love that end quote on your part there. I love my country, because it brings us back to the issue of a development of a national consciousness relative to our love of country. All right. I made many years ago, Nazeer, I gave a speech in Woodford Square, and I lamented the fact that whilst we have been so much of a copycat nation in terms of modeling ourselves after the US culture and whole constructs, one of the things that I lamented we've not copied from them is that love of country, patriotism. And that is why I'm still on about it now here, 50 years later. Yes, because I still feel that we have to engage some activity that is a sustainable activity that will keep repeating the message, because Nazeer, I believe that repetition is what etches things into the mind. And therefore, I feel that the repetition of certain messages become fundamental to any attempt to change and to sustain the change of mindsets across the nation, of everyone. The solution to our problems, I believe, is resident within each of us. Each of us have a part to play. Hence, the title of my program, Every Cent Counts, because the whole is made up of its myriad parts. And if you take away a part, then the whole is no longer whole. And we are almost out of time, but I would like you to.
I would leave this as my wind up for you to get your questions. I would say that let's make our next program something about using the brain to install priorities, values, and habits. I think that
yes.
But I hear what you want for our nation, and I'll say two things. I'd say it is not your or my right. Probably, yes, we have a right to express our opinion about it. But that requires the heavy lifting of national discourse, and not one for the press to come and take picture with who you're standing to. National discourse in the community about what village we want. Yesterday, I threw out a challenge to some bankers. Of course, I had no takers. Let's take a community. I have a friend who in this age finds himself in Castara. I said, boy, listen, let us work on a project. What is an ideal Castara? One way of welcoming my minister, new MP, was to go, and I waited 3.5 hours to see him. And each time I go to get up, my wife just put her hand. You came to do God's work. To tell him what is going to be my contribution to build a model community. That is where it has to start, God. We cannot get away with cheap answers like we got away in yours and in my time. That we marched with a cadet band in Labre and we got a bun and a red solo at the end for marching for our independence. Those days have gone. The young people don't want that. They don't want that. Or wearing the maroon cap and honor. What the hell about maroon cap? Who want money? You want US money? Right? I'm not saying he's wrong or he's right, but we have to recognize what stirs the soul, what stirs the community. We have lost our way of finding those things out, more going for ORTTs and the light and a pic here and things going viral. It is not hard to get 100,000. It's not hard. Yesterday, I remember, I got this one. This is my end. Remember, he who writes for fools always find a large public. I don't write for fools.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. Well, Sir Charles, we have about 10 minutes to go. I don't know if you're opening the lines and see if we have anybody listening and responding to the discourse. Knock, knock. Well, let me continue to talk in the meantime. Nazeer. All right. But tell me, I have identified the anniversary as a time for reflection and for projection. What are your thoughts on that identification?
God, that we must have. But we cannot accept the agenda and the process of the status quo. We must be rebels. So I see a program, and I have huge respect for this. But here who we are interviewing. We are interviewing the prime ministers and people who made a significant contribution. What the hell? People who made a significant contribution. People who made a significant contribution are located in Labre and Corcoran and Vance River, where mothers on one income during the strike and Shell and UBOT, where their kids sent them to university. Those are our heroes. They did their work for love of family, for love of children, right? So yes, the reflection is important. The reflection is important because I think reflection is an important part of the learning process. But who and what? We cannot make the status quo holders who dress in jacket and tie be determinants of what we listen and reflect on. That, into a large measure, is responsible for some of the mess we have today. Unless we bring glory to that woman who came out of the morning ground this morning and had a message for the nation, who has been grounded in the reality of feeding 5 children with a father unaccountable and doing a damn decent job, and the role of the community in that, we will miss the seminal points for nation building. And we use that together with all the fantastic things with social technology in order to promote the essence of who we are. We have to build on who we truly are. And who we are is not located near the lighthouse.
But how do we, Nazeer, how do we bring about a recognition of the value of who we are as we are? Not in any way suggesting that there is a need for being satisfied and being comfortable with just who we are, but also the need for that aspiration to recognize that who we are is really representative of potential that requires and that maybe even demands development to fulfill purpose.
Well, we have two fantastic things on our daily plate, our daily menu. We have to go to the fringe. We have to go where power is not concentrated. And I believe in political parties. I believe in strong political parties because that is the mechanism for building the nation. A budget is coming shortly. And we are at such a crossroads, and I do not know if the true dynamics are being attended to. PNM, the challenge of, and I'm not going to use any lazy words like change and transformation and those things. The challenge of renewal. The challenge of renewal. What in this party do we need to take and preserve? And to that extent, some of the views of like the Mitchells and Pereira may have a place. But the PNM that is to be renewed has to come from somewhere else. Those East-West Corridor youths, those youths in Charlottesville, in Point Fortin, and in La Brea. Else they will no longer be marginal to the PNM. They will be lost to the PNM. How? What kind of leadership is required for that? And when you look at the UNC, people think that NAR provided an opportunity for this country to see a truly national party. Well, I have news for you. That was put to end because two-man rat couldn't live in the same hole. Today, you have a UNC that on paper has youth, has ethnic variety, has an impoverished treasury. Now they have a chance to build for the first time. And you talk about environment and circumstances, a truly national party.
All right. I very thought-provoking. Well, in introducing you, I said that you are a provocateur and a rebel, and that the status quo is not your friend. And I guess you are just validating my introduction.
Let me just correct one thing, please. I honor the status quo. The status quo has great things. The status quo has this computer that you and I could talk on. But I am mindful. I'm mindful of its limits. And I ground myself at 73. I'm entitled to that. And that is not, and that is self-interest. I ground myself in some values, in some ways, and some habits that are not fixed. But I would like to spend my remaining years honoring self-interest.
All right. Sir Charles?
Yes.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. I was on a call. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. But we are at a point where we have to go.
Yes. So I don't think we can. I'm so sorry we can't take some feedback on the conversation this morning, because I thought that we touched on some very critical points relative to our nation moving forward as the 63rd anniversary looms on the near horizon. So I want to thank all our listeners, and if there are things that you would have liked, any inputs you would have liked to have made, hopefully we'll find some opportunity on our next Monday's program. But we are moving close toward independence, and I want to get some real conversation on the national platform relative to how do we move forward. So if you want to contact me, my WhatsApp number is 680-3185. 680-3185. Remember, it's a WhatsApp number. So WhatsApp me. Don't phone call. Don't give me a phone call. WhatsApp me. Give me a phone contact, a email address, and we can converse. Nazeer, you wanted to say something?
Sir Charles, thank you. God, continue your good work. It is required. And happy independence to Trinidad and Tobago. We are lucky we are placed on this soil. Thank you.
Thank you,
very much,
Nazeer.
Mr. Sultan, and thank you very much, Garth, for being here. People, this has been Every Cent Counts right here on New Era TT Radio.
Okay.